Hello everyone, welcome to my art studio. Thanks for stopping by. In this video, I will be giving a step-by-step tutorial on how you can learn to paint schools of fish better. Now, this isn't a guide for every type of fish, but it's a general guide that I hope you find useful. Also, this is the first video on my YouTube channel, so I'm excited. And my goal on this channel is to try to inspire as many people to become better painters and maybe even try out painting for the first time if you can. And I also want to get better at painting myself. So I'm excited for the journey and let's get right into it. Okay, this is the canvas. And the school of fish is going to be going in this lower part of the open ocean. I'm excited because that gives us a lot of room, and we're going to be painting some yellow and black and potentially a hint of blue fishes. I'm excited. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to paint the bodies of every single fish. Now, the most important part when doing the school of fish is that you do all of them one feature at a time. For example, take these fish. I did all of their blue bodies, then all of their eyes, then all of this back stripe, etc. That way, if I do it on one and I don't like it, then I just move on and try something different. And instead of it looking like I messed up, because there's enough fish, it looks like one of them, maybe even two of them, are just have a slight genetic mutation. That's key. You want to have it so that most of the fish are the same, but a few are different. And that way, it conveys that sense of realism, but at the same time, it makes it easier to not make mistakes. So, we're gonna grab some yellow with this small, for example, this is my thumb. We're going to grab this small brush and we're going to take this, and it's very, while it is small, it's broad. We're going to take this and we're going to grab the color of your choice. In this case, I'm doing some yellow. I'm going to get it loaded up there and we're just going to go for it. So I fancy some fish right here. Remember, these are blue and yellow fish, and we're going to take this and see, with fish, shape, with small fish, shape doesn't really matter. What matters is the small details you put on it, because the generic, obviously something like a sea turtle, as up above, that right there, the shape really matters. But for small fish, it's not so much their shape that distinguishes them, it's their finer details. So I'm going to do a quick speed up of me painting all of these, and I'll be right back. Okay, so basically I've laid out the shape of all of them. However, because it's yellow, naturally you can't layer enough paint on the first time around so that it isn't semi-transparent. And what you want is for it to be solid yellow. You don't want to see anything behind it. That's very important with most paintings. There are some things that you want to leave semi-transparent, but in the case of fish, you definitely want to apply multiple layers to make it very opaque, very solid. You can't see anything behind it. And I will layer the corals on top of this, but pro tip, don't try to make it totally opaque the first time through. Because if you do, you will end up with these big ridges. And many people fall victim to that. I know it. But you just want to avoid that at all costs. So, paint your first layer, but each layer you add, it gets more and more opaque. For example, this one is almost like it's not there. I add another layer, since it's almost dry now, and voila. It isn't perfect, but it's much better. And if you start pulling off some of those ridges that it leaves behind, then you can start using it on other ones as well. Now, this is a technique that I'm going to use in a lot of my videos, but it's very helpful. So I'm going to apply another layer right now. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm actually going to go ahead and do another layer, especially because with some of these, the coral behind it is showing through, and I might even end up doing another one, depending on how it goes. But what's nice about this is that these ones back here are already close to dry, so I'm not going to be affecting them as I finish painting over it. That's critical though. You want them to be dry before you add another layer. I'm back, and I've got all of the shapes of the fish done. Now, you can tell that I have variation in their sizes, and that's very critical. Now, the next part is in the details. Details, details, details. And for this, I have my smallest brush. Now, this brush is amazing because not only does it make a really fine point, it's also got a very long, short hair length. Now what that means is that basically the longer the hairs of the brush are, the more likely it is that you press down on it and they splay outwards. For instance, if I take a brush like this, much longer hair length, as you can see there, and I press, they splay outwards. And with really fine brushes, you don't want that. So with this brush, it's really nice. When shopping for fine brushes, this is what you want. You want low hair length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some black for their eyes. Just the tiniest pinprick that I can. It is very critical that you put it in the right spot. So I'm going to do it on this one right here. Boop. Now, that signifies which way they're going. They're going to be going this way. But it also the eye is like, really for any animal, it sets in stone where the other features are going to be. Like if you're doing a bear or an elk, like if you're doing an elk, the eye sets in where the eyebrow should be, where the horns or antlers, where the nose will be, all that. So the eye is extremely important. And while it is just a little dot and therefore relatively easy to neglect, it's extremely important because it's actually almost the most relatable part of a fish. So I'm going ahead and doing all of them right here. Okay, I'm liking that. So now we're going to do another feature with black. However, black is really hard to tone down. If you put black on a painting that isn't generally dark, it will really pop as kind of like a void in this painting. So you have to use it carefully. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and make the outline of their tails and their fins. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm going to put more blue in there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of these fish. Now, the way you collect the paint on your brush is almost as important as how you apply it. This is because, and it doesn't matter so much for bigger strokes, but for these really precision-based, very small details, like I'm working with a brush that is like a fingernail in length. When you're doing things that require this much precision, it's very critical that you grab the paint off of your palette a certain way. And that is by just going straight down onto it, touching the top, and coming off. You'll be surprised how much paint you get, but I literally just do that, and I have enough to paint one of these fishes. But if you grab it any other way, it will start to mess up how it eventually applies the paint. Now, if you're doing a giant stroke, like with a brush that maybe, say, is 2 inches in size, it doesn't matter at all, because you're doing naturally giant strokes where you want to expose the whole brush to the canvas. You get these big strokes, but with precision, the way you apply the paint is very important. So I'm gonna get all these done and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have the shape of the tail and fin on the tops of these, the next thing we want to do is add details. Now in this case, I'm going to be using blue, but depending on what color fish you have, you might totally use a different one. I made a school of yellow and blue fish because they're very, not generic, but they're typically what people think of when they think of fish. A fish that's blue and yellow. So, I'm taking this blue, mixing it up, and I'm going to apply a small stripe right here, as if they're grinning almost. However, it's far enough back that it doesn't actually look like that. And if you make small mistakes, that's okay, because it just looks like the little variations in their traits. So once again, adding a blue stripe down here, but you can use whatever color you want. Now, when you have certain colors go well with others, but some pop more when they are added in smaller amounts. For example, if I added a lot of blue the blue wouldn't seem like it jumps out as much. But right now, it actually does quite a bit because I have less of it. However, I'm going to change that. I'm going to add blue in the fins and tails. So it's going to be interesting. Just mixing up the paint right now, but I'm going to see kind of what I generally want. And here, it's very important that I'm very precise. Now, speaking of precision, this is another tip of mine. To be very precise, you always want an anchor on the canvas. That's what I call basically a part of your hand touching the canvas. Now, preferably, it's your wrist, because if your wrist is on the canvas, you just have your fingers can still work their magic with barely any restrictions, but now suddenly you don't have your entire arm that could move and mess you up. It's just the little lengths of your fingers that you can make a mistake on, but that won't be the end of the world. It'll just be a bit of a nuisance, but it provides so much more precision than if you had, say you were just trying to, use your whole arm. It sways a lot, and no one's perfectly stable, but this way, you can be so much more precise. Now, I've stopped the time lapse just because I want to show you I just messed up here. I don't know if you can fully see it, but right here, I went outside the line. And I want to show you a good technique that involves the paint knife. The paint knife is like the ultimate repair tool. You just take it, push this back, scrape it off on the palette, push it back some more, scrape it off, push it back more, and now, while it isn't flawless, it's like it never happened. Okay, so now everything is taking shape. We've got all of our fish. Oh, and famous last words. It's just one little spot I need to do some work on. But I still think, and it's always up to your preference, but in my case, I'm going to add one more detail. That's going to be an orange stripe. So, everything's falling into place. I have the fish, I have their details, they all have their individual traits, but also are still very similar. But there's one more feature I want to add, and then we'll get on to my last tip for this video. So, let's say this one, I imagine just like that. Now you'll notice I'm using the same brush for all these fine details. With small brushes, they're so easy to wash. So I recommend you use it, wash it, wash it, wipe it with a paper towel by just going like that with it, and that gets all the paint off, and you can just start painting with it again. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I will be right back. This is almost done. However, what I want to do is just a bit of touch-up. Now, what I mean by that is just making things more defined that you want to be more defined. And as of right now, I don't really see anything else. Now, but you always should look at every single one and just make sure that it's what you want to see. I'm pretty happy with this. I think I'm almost done. But the key is, before, what you don't want to do is be like, no, I want another fish. You don't want to do that. What you want is to make sure you have the right amount of fish from the get-go, when you just have their shapes. And that way, you don't have to mix all those colors all over again, get all those brushes wet, dirty again, and that way you don't have to continue to, get all these brushes wet. So make sure you have the right amount of fish to start when you start. And that's that. We have ourselves another school of fish. I hope this video was very helpful for you. I know I actually learned quite a bit while doing it. And if you really enjoyed this, please leave a like. And there will be more videos coming soon. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure to subscribe for more painting, more enjoying, maybe even a time lapse coming soon. But for now, my name is Torsten, and I will see you next time.